It's time to make my season predictions on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. Hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I do apologize in advance. I'm a little bit under the weather. Feeling under the weather. Stayed in bed most of today, but have to record the episode. Have to bring you guys the best Marlins content out there. And the grind doesn't stop. So I got a cup of water. And I'm going to be talking about my predictions for the 2025 Miami Marlins. I'm going to get right into it. The big takeaway, of course, is the record. What do I think the record will be? 60 wins and 102 losses, folks. Yes, this team, I do believe, is destined to lose over 100 games. I don't think people understand that this roster was gutted from last season, and it just doesn't have the depth required for a major league team. The depth is a major concern, especially on the pitching side of things. We saw the Marlins enter last season with a rotation that was decimated by injuries. And now you take away Jesus Luzardo, you take away Braxton Garrett. Yes, you have Sandy back. But remember, none of these pitchers behind Sandy have thrown over 100 innings in a season, apart from Cal Quantrill. But the Ryan Weathers, Edward Cabrera, Max Meyer, they haven't done it. They're young, they're inexperienced. And now Edward Cabrera is dealing with a blister, and his status for opening day looks shaky at best. I don't think he starts in the opening day rotation. And his time overall will be short as a starting pitcher in the Marlins rotation. But I've talked a lot about him on the podcast recently. Moving away from that topic, the position players, they don't have the star firepower or any power in general needed to compete on a day-to-day basis. This team will struggle to score runs. So I do think this is a 100-loss team, and I hope I'm proven wrong. I really do. But there are certain questions with the lineup that I have that I just don't see this team scoring enough runs consistently to make any amount of noise and finish anywhere but fifth in the National League East. And it's hard to envision this team making a strong jump from last season, in which they had Jake Berger, they had Jazz Chisholm for the first half of the season, Brian De La Cruz. Whether you feel good or bad about him, he provided a lot of pop in the first half of the season. He's gone. Gone is the bullpen. Tanner Scott, AJ Puck. So it's going to be difficult for this team to win games. That's just the bottom line. Now, who is my Cy Young for the Miami Marlins in 2025? It's got to be Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara is making his return after Tommy John surgery. He's also my comeback player for the Marlins this season, but Cy Young winner. As long as he is in Miami and he is healthy, he is the ace of this pitching staff, number one. And number two, he's one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, full stop. When Sandy is healthy and Sandy is on his A game, there are few pitchers better than him in baseball. I think he reestablishes himself in the first half of the season. Whether he gets traded or not, he reestablishes himself in a Marlins uniform as being one of the premier starters in baseball in an era in which pitchers don't pitch a lot of innings. Only 4 pitched over 200 last year. Sandy can do that. Sandy is a throwback to an older era of baseball, especially when it comes to pitching staffs. He would pitch 300 innings if he could. I fully believe that. But also Ryan Weathers, I want you to pay attention to him this season. Ryan Weathers is my other choice for being the best Marlins pitcher. If Sandy gets traded this season and Ryan Weathers stays healthy, he will get this award. I really do believe that. Last year he was on an all-star trajectory. And I think he could do the same this year, provided, again, he stays healthy. It's a big concern for these young Marlins pitchers. Their availability. Can't overwork them, but at the same time, you're going to need to get these innings out of them to avoid taxing the bullpen. But Ryan Weathers' fastball is looking great this spring, 97, 98 miles an hour. He had a different diet this offseason, trimmed down a ton, looks way more athletic on the mound. I'm sure he feels a lot better pitching out there. So Ryan Weathers, Sandy Alcantara, those two pitchers are going to be ace one. Okay, and then Ryan Weathers is the guy next man up if Sandy does get traded this season. I said the comeback player was going to be Sandy, and of course, anytime you come back from Tommy John and you look just as good as you did before Tommy John surgery, that's gonna get you this award from me. Comeback player of the year, Sandy Alcantara. He looks phenomenal in spring training. I expect that to carry on into the regular season. A great testament to his work ethic, number one, battling and rehabbing from a surgery that is very, it's hard to battle through. I mean, mentally, you prepare yourself, hey, I'm out for the next year and a half. I can't be out pitching in the games with my guys doing what I love. So I'm sure that was tough on him, but he made it back and he looks just as good as ever. The home run king for the Marlins in 2025. I don't feel confident one which way about picking this, but I have to go with Jesus Sanchez. I want to believe, if not just for pure optimism and for pure delusion, maybe. But Jesus Sanchez breaks out this season. Finally, this season. He's my prediction. I predict him to get 25 home runs on the dot, lead the Marlins in home runs, and improve against left-handers. I think you see a jump from him against left-handed hitting. Do I have any reason to think this? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's just I want it to happen. But I see the raw power. You remember the home run he hit at Coors Field a couple years ago. He puts it all together. He's a 25 home run candidate. He's my prediction for the home run king and the MVP overall for the Marlins this season. Ooh, that's tough. That's a tough question. I have something written down, but I might change it on the fly here. And I am going to change it on the fly. I'm going to go with Sandy Alcantara once again. The original MVP was Connor Norby. I still think he is going to be the most well-rounded position player, but Sandy Alcantara is the best player, pitcher or hitter, in the Marlins organization. He's going to come out and deal this season, starting next Thursday against Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates. He'll be my MVP. Pitchers don't win MVPs. They really don't. They haven't won one since Clayton Kershaw did in 2014. So I guess I've given Sandy 3 awards, which tells you that I'm a big Sandy fan when it comes to this team. And finally, my bold prediction, Xavier Edwards wins the batting title. He strips it away from 3-time defending batting champion Luis Arias, once in the American League, twice in the National League. He wins the batting title for the first time in his career and makes a name for himself. You're going to hear the name Luis Arias, not Luis Arias. You already hear that name. but you're going to hear the name Xavier Edwards on MLB Network a lot this season as he wins the National League batting title. That is my bold prediction for the 2025 Marlins. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about the studs and the duds. Who has overachieved this spring training? Who has underachieved? I'm starting to worry about just what I've seen during Grapefruit League play. That's coming up right after this. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Whether you're recovering after a workout or you need an energy boost, the grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Visit justingredients.us/Bryce Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your order. And for more wellness tips, follow just.ingredients on Instagram. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set your goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. If you're an everyday listener, thank you for tuning in once again on Locked On Marlins. And if this is your first time checking us out on the show, I don't always sound this bad. I'm a little bit under the weather, feeling a little sick, resting today, but trying to give you guys some good content here. But thanks for tuning in. Subscribe as always so you don't miss any future episodes. Who are the studs and the duds? Who has achieved a lot and impressed me this spring training? I'm going to start with the positive. Ryan Weathers, number one. I talked about him in the first segment, how I think he is going to have a big season. And that is evident on the work he's put in this offseason and the stuff he has. He has really good stuff. Fastball velocity looks really good in the upper 90s. The big thing for Ryan Weathers is the control. He's gotten into a little bit of trouble when it comes to walking hitters this spring training, but he'll be okay, I think, in the long run. I think the stuff is so good, and it's only going to get better now that he's fully healthy and he's transformed his body into more of a leaner athlete on the mound out there. He's not as heavy as he was before. I think that allows him to be more athletic on the mound, and you're going to see the results. He's just got to stay healthy. You're going to see an all-star caliber year from Ryan Weathers. Second pitcher that I want to bring up is Connor Gillespie. Now, Connor Gillespie, I think, starts in the opening day rotation. I personally wanted to see Adam Major get called up, but Connor Gillespie is starting in place of Edward Cabrera, who is dealing with a blister, and he's been really good this spring training. Gillespie's gone 8 innings, hasn't allowed a single hit. I mean, that's really freaking good. So for somebody that's new to the organization, making a mark on the organization and is versatile, could pitch out of the bullpen, could be a starter when needed. Gillespie's impressed, and I think he's going to be needed to start the year. If Edward Cabrera can't go, and it's looking unlikely that he will, then Gillespie is going to be relied on, at least at the beginning of the season. Now the final two studs from spring training so far, two of them, and they're both competing in the outfield. Dane Myers and Derek Hill, both of whom have had very solid spring trainings. And Dane Myers, the great Dane, I mean, he's only played 66 games in his major league career, which is surprising to me because I did not expect Dane Myers to only have that much experience and very little experience in the majors. But got called up in 23 and then didn't make the opening day roster in 24 and then ended up dealing with an injury. So this is a big prove it year for him. I like what he's done in spring training. He's hit for a good average. Can he run into a little bit of strikeouts? Sure. But overall, I think Dane Myers is going to have a big season in 25, along with Derek Hill. I think both of those guys, especially now dealing with the Jesus Sanchez injury, I think both of these guys can get plenty of time to start the beginning of the season. And over the long haul, over the 162 game stretch, the gauntlet that is Major League Baseball in the regular season, both of these guys are going to get plenty of at bats. And Derek Hill this is his opportunity to crush lefties. He's elite at crushing left-handed pitching, and to possibly play himself into an everyday outfielder for the Marlins in 2025 and a possible trade chip looking down the road at the deadline. Both those guys have had good springs, unlike another outfielder, Kyle Stowers. Kyle Stowers has not had a good spring at all. The swing and miss continues to be a problem. It's just it just isn't consistent for him making contact at the plate. He's hitting for well below 200 this spring. The strikeouts continue to plague him. And you wonder if it's ever going to turn around for him, if he's ever going to figure it out. It's a player who could not hit fastballs worth anything to save his life last season. And that's not good. You cannot survive in the major leagues if you can't hit fastballs. If you can't hit velocity, it's over. It's over for you. You're not going to be a productive player. And it sucks for Kyle Stowers because I do think the jury's still out on him. He still can prove that he can be a productive player, but this spring has not done him any justice. He's had a rough go at it. The other player who's had a rough time was actually cut a little bit ago from Major League Camp was Davison De Los Santos. De Los Santos was a dark horse to make the opening day roster. I really think that if he had come into Grapefruit League play and established himself as the power threat we know he is, who also is avoiding the strikeouts and avoiding chasing pitches outside the zone, then De Los Santos, if he had a monster spring, could force his way onto the roster. It didn't happen. Did not happen at all. He only had 11 at-bats, struck out 6 times, got only 2 base hits, I think, didn't homer. It was just a mediocre showing, and a showing that showed the lack of plate discipline. He's still going to strike out a ton, and he's still going to chase pitches, which he has no business swinging at. De Los Santos is starting to worry me. It's still young. He's still young. He still has plenty of time. But the concerns, the plate discipline concerns, the chase concerns that he just doesn't swing, or that he will swing at anything, those are still there. This spring training didn't do him any favors. He didn't do himself any favors this spring training to ward off those issues. So Kyle Stowers, De Los Santos, of course, still plenty of time. It's only spring training, but there are major concerns with both of them. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about the offensive identity for the Marlins in 2025. What will they emphasize from a lineup perspective? That's coming up right after this. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
A reminder, hit me up with any comments or questions. I'll do my best to answer them on Locked On Marlins. What will the offensive identity be for the Marlins this season? What are they going to place emphasis on? You think about teams who sell out for power or who play small ball and really rely on the small ball tactics. I've had a lot of comments on the YouTube channel talking about the Marlins possibly being like the Tampa Bay Rays or the Kansas City Royals. You know, the low budget teams who just kind of piece together a lineup and are scrappy and not hit for a ton of home runs. The Marlins, the issue with this, they don't have those players. They just don't have the depth that can make a team competitive. This lineup is really going to struggle. They focused on plate discipline this spring training. That has been clear. They've walked over 100 times so far this spring, which compared to last season throughout the entire Grapefruit League schedule, I believe they only walked 77 times. They've already walked over 100. So the plate discipline has improved. They focus on defensive versatility throughout the entire lineup. They want guys who can play multiple positions. But they don't have power. They don't have consistent power. The power is going to be streaky. You traded Jake Burger. Jake Burger was a guaranteed 29, 30 home runs a year. Brian De La Cruz, 20 home runs. Take away guys like those. The power was up to Jesus Sanchez. And apart from him, he's already going to start the season on the injured list. They don't have players who have produced power seasons and consistent home run seasons in the major leagues. Yes, does Griffin Conine have power? Sure. But he's only played a month of baseball. Does Matt Mervis have power? Absolutely. But he's striking out at a tremendous clip right now. Connor Norby says he wants to be a 30 home run guy. I don't know if that's necessarily what's good for his game. I think he needs to cut down on the strikeouts, which he has a problem with, and settle for 15 to 20 home runs for more contact. Because the contact for him still could use some improvement, I think. Hit under 240 last season, 9 homers, and he's still dealing with all the strikeouts. I really like Norby. I think he can be a part of this lineup, but they don't have a proven power hitter. Their stolen base threats, Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez, and Norby. But you're not going to get any stolen bases out of Mervis. You're not going to get stolen bases out of Jonah Bride. So this team doesn't really have one set thing they're going to rely on. They're not going to be the big boppers of the National League. They're not going to be the speed devils of the National League. They were middle of the pack last year in stolen bases at about 13 overall in Major League Baseball. They were 13. So will they be defensively versatile? Yes. Will they walk more? Yes. But they're still going to strike out a ton. There's too much swing and miss on this team right now. Kyle Stowers, Dane Myers, Matt Mervis, Connor Norby, those guys all strike out a lot. And there's not a proven power threat. So this lineup is going to they're going to take their lumps. It's not going to be a lineup that's going to score 4 or 5 runs a game and everything's fun and dandy. Marlins are going to have days when they get shut out. They're going to have days when they strike out 15 times and score 1 run. It's just the lineup right now isn't a strength. And that's an issue for a rebuilding team. Are there pieces? Yes. But not all these pieces will work out. Not every single player that I've talked about and that you've seen in spring training are going to be here in 2026 and 2027. I talk about Kyle Stowers, and with all due respect to Kyle, if he doesn't figure it out, they're not going to give him an extended grace period if he hits 200 in 2025. He's got to do better. He's got to improve. Griffin Conine, he's an older prospect. He's somebody that finally got up into the major leagues and is going to get playing time this season. Is he going to perform? Is he going to cut down on the strikeouts? Or is he just a placeholder? I understand he's a legacy guy. His father was an all-time Marlin. But you still got to perform. Dane Myers, Derek Hill, trying to make the most of their opportunity. Because there's other guys that are on their way and knocking on the door. Max Acosta, Jared Serna, Augustine Ramirez. These guys haven't made their Major League debut yet. They could in 2025. And it's likely even that you see Augustine Ramirez. We talk about the catching position. The Marlins haven't had a catcher that provides good offensive value for the club since JT Realmuto. That's going on 7 years ago. So Liam Hicks, Nick Fortes, here's your opportunity. Nick Fortes, can you turn it around? The funny thing about Nick Fortes, he doesn't strike out. He doesn't whiff. He just makes contact and then gets out. It's just a funny, I guess, situation with him. It's like a bad hitter who's good at hitting the ball, just not hitting it in the right places. But the offensive identity for the Marlins isn't clear because they don't have one. They don't put emphasis on one thing. They don't put emphasis on one thing because I don't think they have the personnel yet to put that emphasis on and see the results from. Of course, you want to see launch angle. You want to see exit velocity. I mean, you want to see home runs. Everybody likes home runs. And then you want to see the players that are going to mix in the contact as well and supplement that power and that slug. But right now, they just don't have it as a team. They don't have the players on the roster. You look at the Braves, you look at the Mets. There's no Juan Soto walking through the door. There's no Francisco Lindor walking through the door. You look at the Braves lineup, no Austin Riley, no Ronald Acuna Jr. They lack in star power. So they're going to have to get streaky. They're going to have to get hot at the right time. And it's a lot like basketball, in which you're going to have a few games in baseball games in which you're hot, you're on a run. Like in basketball, you're on a 10-0 run. And then you're going to have games where you're cold and you're shooting wide open shots and they're not going down. That's going to be it for the Marlins in 2025. Very, very streaky. And hopefully you get hot enough times in order to avoid the 100 losses. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. As always, guys, stay safe. Thank you for listening, and let's go fish.